G'day cocktail lovers, I hope you're ready for something a little different in this video. Rather than a cocktail, we're going to talk about ice, specifically clear ice. I mean, look at this, this is very cold, I'm not going to hold it. Look at this beautiful clear ice. Clear ice is somewhat of a holy grail with cocktail making because clear ice is sexy ice, and sexy ice makes sexy drinks when it's on the rocks. So there's a lot of quests to get clear ice, and if you've looked around for it on the internet, you will have seen a hack that a lot of people do. You get a cooler or an esky, as we call them in Australia, get a little one with the lid off, fill it with water, because there is one way and one way only to get clear ice, and that is directional freezing. The most popular method you'll see recommended online will either be the cooler or esky method, a small cooler, take the lid off, fill it with water, put it in the freezer. And because it has insulation all around, but not on the top, you get directional freezing. The ice freezes down, which actually pushes the air bubbles and impurities down, and it's only the last bit of ice that will have those bubbles and impurities in it. I found a hack that is way easier than any of, and cheaper than those, and I found this on Uncle Pete's Cocktail Shop. If you've not seen Uncle Pete on YouTube, you must go, because besides me learning this ice making hack from him, he does great explorations of not just cocktails, but what goes into making a cocktail and modifying a cocktail. And he makes special syrups and shrubs and infusions, and you can learn a lot. And also, just Uncle Pete and Auntie Susan seem very nice people, and you should go check him out and subscribe. But when Uncle Pete did this thing with clear ice, he was MacGyvering up some insulation. He was using what he called beer koozies. In Australia we call them stubby holders, but insulated drink holders. And I thought, well, if that works, you know what would work? Insulated coffee mugs, you know, the reusable mugs you get. And so I have experimented with several, this one, this longer, skinnier one, and most recently I was very excited when I found this one, because it's huge and impressive, that's what she said. And this is the one that actually made, I'm dropping shit everywhere, sorry. This is the one that actually made this incredibly beautiful big bit of ice. So the process is just incredibly simple. You know what it is? Put water in here. You don't worry about boiling it. Filtering apparently improves the end result a little bit. I actually do use filtered water, but sometimes you get people saying, all you need is filtered or boiled water and the ice will come out clear. Bullshit. It has to be something that uses directional freezing. And because this is insulated all around to keep your drink either hot or cold and not affect your hand when you're drinking it, if you use it to make ice, it will freeze from the top down and you get this beautiful clear ice. When you're ready to get it out, you can't flex this like an ice cube tray. These are completely inflexible, so you can't rush the ice coming out. So what I learned to do is to tip them upside down. Put it on something that it can drain on, because if you leave it like this, which you can, what will happen is a bit on the top will melt and you'll get this little nodule on the end, which is not terrible, but it's wasting a little bit of the ice. Whereas if you put it upside down, as it melts a little, it will stop sticking to the side of your mug and it will slide out, usually with a very satisfying slurping noise. Now, two other tips I'm going to say. This can take a long time, and I think it's because it's such a small freezing area. Usually if you're making it with a cooler, people say it takes about 24 hours. I found with this, it can take longer, even though it's a smaller amount of ice. And I think it's because there's a smaller freezing surface here and it takes longer to freeze all the way around. But check it after 24 hours and then, 4 hours after that, etc. And I'll try and get some visuals. There's nothing in here at the moment. I'll make another one and try and get some visuals and show you what it looks like when you can see the bubbles at the bottom. And that's the point where you put it on something where it can drain and you wait. It might take 10 minutes, it might take an hour. There was one time I really thought it was going to happen and it took like 2 hours or more for the ice to actually slide out. That's probably the one downside of this, because it's not flexible like an ice cube mold. You can't flex it and make the ice come out. You just have to wait. But you get spectacularly clear ice, and then you can chop it up. And I'll also do a little bit of video. Now I'm going to show you, and I have to, disclaimer, I'm quite bad at this bit, chopping up the ice into usable chunks.
Here's a little tip when you are in the process of freezing and then you check, it looks so clear, it's perfect, it's as clear as water. That's because it's still water. It's not ready until you can actually see the impurities in the bottom, until you can see some water bubbles. This is a dirty trick that I fell for once before. Don't fall for it. I'm not sure how clearly that's going to show up on camera, but I can see ice bubbles at the bottom now. And I can also see it's still a bit liquid, which is great because that's going to make it easier to get the waste bit off the end. It won't be completely frozen, I should say. So what we do now, I'm just putting it on a thing to drain the water, because you do actually have to drain some water and that'll take a while. See, you can go. I'm also clarifying a cocktail there. And look, just for fun, it's my cat having a sleep too. Hi Mimsy, say hello to the people. Or not, you snob. And now, out it comes. And look at the end, it's still a bit of liquid in the end, which is going to make it way easier for me to trim off. You can see a little bit of air bubbles there, a little bit of imperfection, but it's pretty good. Now I'll show you the bit that I'm really bad at. Making it into smaller pieces. The trick is to score the ice all around. Like I could make that into 2 pieces or 3 pieces. Let's say I make it into 2 pieces. And then you kind of, there you go. It's cracked into 2 pieces. 2 pretty big pieces.
Some final tips for using your clear ice. When you're storing it in the freezer, it's a good idea to keep the individual pieces, or even just all the pieces, in Ziploc bags so they don't frost up. But when you take them out, you need to let them sit for a while before pouring a drink on them. It's called tempering the ice. What that does is make it less likely that the ice will crack. If you take the ice straight out of the freezer and pour an unchilled or even a chilled drink straight onto it, there's a reasonable chance the ice will crack, and that will ruin the clarity. My second tip is use a clear drink to really show off the cocktail ice. For instance, something like a whiskey sour would be a waste, or most tiki drinks, which are honestly quite murky, would be a waste. But say an old fashioned would, or a milk clarified cocktail. Look, I mean I love that. It just looks fantastic. This big clear bit of ice in there, and somehow I think it makes the drink taste even better. So off you go now. Do your adventures with making clear ice, because it's so easy. You could check Uncle Pete's video on it, where he shows you how to do it with just a disposable bottle and a beer koozie or stubby holder, or you could use the insulated double wall coffee cups like I do, and you can experiment with sizes and whatnot, and you don't need a lot of freezer space, because a lot of the rather expensive ice molds and or even using the cooler method takes up a lot of freezer space. The individual cups, they don't. So it's easy, it's cheap, and it looks really cool. I hope you found this useful, and I hope to see you again soon. I'll be with some more regular cocktails later, but until I do see you again, cheers.